both the universities and the corporate employers are literally, this is true, they literally import Africans so that they don't have to hire African Americans because they still count as black. There was a great story. The thing that woke me up to this, there was a story in the New York Times 20 years ago about Harvard. This is Harvard admits, black students, but which ones? Back when the New York Times could talk about these things honestly. And it quoted actually Henry Louis Gates and Lonnie Guinier at the time at Harvard Law School, basically observing that African Americans were not benefiting from affirmative action because Harvard had figured out that they could import Nigerians. Right. And again, it's just like, great. The Nigerians are great. They're very smart. They're very productive. It's fantastic. All other things being equal, you'd like to have as many of them in your country. But like, is that really why we're doing, the set aside programs affects African Americans in a very interesting way?
Now, I know this video is going to be controversial and some people are not going to like what I'm about to say. But I'm going to say it anyway. I don't care. Black Americans are right to be mad. They are. You see, us immigrants, not all of us, but a lot of us, seem to forget, or maybe they just don't know. But if you have been living in this country long enough, you should know that. The reason why we're here, the reason why we are allowed to be here is because of the work Black Americans did. Because of the sacrifices they did. Because all the fights they had to fight in order for us, for them, because they didn't do it for us, they did it for themselves, and it's right. But today we are enjoying the fruit of their labor. And we should not forget that. I'm an immigrant. And yes, in my community or in an immigrant community, and nobody can say otherwise, is a lot of disrespect for African American. It's a lot of it. I have heard it. And I have to admit that when I first came, I was also ignorant of their history. But after being in this country, for the amount of time I have been here, if I act like I don't know that, it means that I'm willingly demeaning them. They are mad. And you know what immigrants should do right now? We should not be arguing with them. We should be quiet and listen. Listen to what they're saying. Listen. No. It is not about us. It's about how they feel. It's about the experience. And guys, they are right. Many immigrant community call them lazy. They're not lazy. They even say they don't have a culture, and that's an insult. Of course they have a culture. Of course they do. In the music, in the food, in the way they live their life, in the way they dress, they have a culture. And by the way, a culture that is a leader in many ways. Our children in Africa dress like black children. Children in Asia dress like black children. Children in Latin America, in Europe. So please stop saying, and it's not only limited to clothing. It's in music, it's in history, it's in literature, it's in science. The immigrant community need to stop demeaning and disrespecting Black American. They are mad, and they have all the rights to be mad. Now, if my immigrant community or my African community want to come after me for what I say, that is on you. I don't care. Because the truth is the truth. And we need to admit where we're coming short. You're going to come to people's house and you want to look down at them? You want to disrespect them? Yes, not all Africans. Yes, not all Latino. Yes, not all blah, blah, blah. All Asian, blah, blah, blah. But enough to make a lot of noise. But enough for them to be mad. Rightfully so. We need to be quiet now and listen to what they have to tell us. No doubting the experience, no undermining the experience, no forgetting the accomplishments. We need to stop that.
We think slavery in America was something. Slavery in Africa is still in force. You talking about deaf, blind, and dumb? Don't confuse because somebody got on some printed cloth that's printed in Holland or India that you're looking at an African cultural expression. That's not an African cultural expression. That cloth was printed in a European country and then sold to Africans. And they've accepted that as their cloth. You understand what I'm saying? Just that piece. Now, they do speak the language, but they know less about their history than you and I do. So you've got a deaf, blind, dumb, backwards person speaking an African language, coming from the African country, came here to be a parasite on their own people with no respect for themselves as human beings. And then because they speak a language, try to make you play you off like they got something culturally that you don't have. The most culturally enforced African in the world is the African American. Most of the movements that have changed the world, that allow all ethnic nations to profit, has been our movement. And so we get peed on and played down because these people are so punked out and scared of the white man that they feel because they're scared of the white man, they got to be against us.
Whole foundational Black American conversation, what's the problem? I see my African brothers and sisters getting very offended by this, but I am struggling to understand why, because there is a difference. For example, our ancestors didn't build this bitch. Our ancestors weren't the ones who fought for equality for everyone in this country so that we could immigrate here, our moms or dads or grandparents. Oh, not to mention a lot of those fathers and mothers and grandparents and aunties are racist as hell. Like unambiguously anti-Black. Racist as all hell. My sisters and I had to beat that shit out of our Ethiopian parents with the quickness. But I can't deny that it was there. We are African Americans in the most literal way one can be. And they are Black Americans, built into the foundation of this country. So foundational Black American, I don't understand what the problem is. How does that negatively impact us? I can't think of one time that my Ethiopian American ass has been subjugated due to a Black American calling themselves foundational. I don't get it.
An American, I'm an American. I am a Black American. I am definitely Black. And yes, my ancestors come from Africa. How long does a bloodline have to live in one land before they are considered a pure species of that land? Meaning, how long did my people have to be in America to say, hey, no, we're American, compared to some people who are English American, who are Irish American, who are German American from their ancestors, but they get to call themselves American. There's nothing wrong with being African American, but a true African American is someone that is from Africa and moved here, either first generation or second generation, and has a tie to that country that I do not have. One of the first census in Virginia that allowed for Black people to have a name was somebody from my family. So that means they were there long before. I think there comes a point where when you build a country, when you fight for freedom, make money and pay taxes and generationally live in a country, you have the privilege to call yourself pure American.
These videos that are like the diaspora wars. It's not a war. There's nothing about it as a war. We are simply saying who we are as a people, Black Americans. So there's nothing about that that's a war. But I have finally realized what the actual issue is. Based on the comments that I have read, right, there was one particular girl who said that I was saying, like, you know, the difference between Black Americans and Africans is very obvious. Black Americans are not immigrants. We didn't immigrate here. And a lot of us know where our great-great-grandparents are from, and so on and so forth, right? So one of the girls says something like, do you want to be worshipped because of slavery? Do you want to be worshipped? And then I was like, bingo, I figured out what the actual problem is. From what I've gathered, the people that have an issue with Black Americans saying that we're Black Americans and not claiming being African is because they don't like the fact that despite us being stolen and sold, mistreated, all of the horrific things that have happened to Black Americans, they don't like the fact that we still rose, we're still great, we still dominate culturally across the world. They don't like that we're popular, essentially, and they don't like the fact that because we're popular, we don't attach ourselves to them. Can you believe that? And I'm not saying that's every single African. I would never say anything is every single person, because that's just not a thing. But I realize that that's the root of the issue. That is exactly what the root of the issue is, because they don't do this to anybody in the Caribbean. They don't say, oh, you need to call yourself African Jamaican. You need to call yourself African Haitian. They don't do that. They don't do that. They only have beef with us. And I think it's because of our history and what we have created here, and the fact that we are proud of who we are. They don't like that we went through so much trauma, but we are still proud of who we are as a people. And I think that is the root of the issue. And as soon as I mentioned the fact that if it wasn't for Black Americans, Africans, Caribbean, all of these immigrants would not even be here because of the civil rights movement, I got blocked. So when you say the truth and you make them acknowledge our value and the fact that we do have culture and we have major influence, and we are the reason that they're able to be in this country and make money and send money back home and build, don't get me started. They blocked me. So that's definitely the root of the issue. They don't like how great we are. And guess what? Get over it or get with it. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to tell you, because all we're asking for from the people of the diaspora is respect. Respect.
Black American delineation has nothing to do with anti-African, anti-Caribbean, or anti-other Black nations. It's about preserving culture, preserving inheritance, setting aside a particular group so that they are not forgotten. They don't want their ancestors, the sacrifice of their ancestors. They don't want the sacrifice of their people to be forgotten. You say that they don't have culture. You say that they don't have identity. And when they decide to set themselves apart, you say that they shouldn't. And no other culture is expected to absorb everybody else except Black Americans. You don't go to Jamaica and say, you got to accept us as Jamaican. You don't go to Haiti and say, you got to accept us as Haitian. Everybody else can have their identity, but when it comes to Black Americans wanting to set themselves apart, you say, oh no, you guys you're xenophobic, you're Zionist. No, stop gaslighting them. Are there some extremists? Yes. But that doesn't represent the whole group. It's important that this group is set aside because they do have an inheritance. They have a special tie to this land and a special history to this land, and they deserve that observation.
I bet you the Viet Cong is more citizens and can come here and put on a little suit and get more freedom and move in neighborhoods and put up business where Negroes can't.
I believe that.
No, that's not right.
I believe that.
They're under a dictatorship
And the
just like the
Chinese
Russians.
can, the Japanese can, the Germans can. Everybody that's not American can go and do what Negroes can do.
We couldn't eat in the restaurants in Louisville. We couldn't eat downtown. One day I saw two Africans go in with their robes and their turbans. They couldn't speak English. I heard the man say, let them in, they're not Negroes. I said, something's wrong. I can't say it's because I'm Black, because they're so black and they're blue, but they were in. So I said, well, I can only let me go medal, then I'll go in. I went and got my gold medal, went back in, ordered 2 cheeseburgers, and they said, sorry, we don't serve Negroes.
The actual story that he's explaining took place in 1958. So these white people did not only know the difference between Black Americans and Africans, they treated them differently, right? Regardless of Ali's status, even though he had these Olympic medals, it didn't matter if he shared the same complexion as them. They just knew that you're a Black American and they're not. They're Africans. And racism is specifically for your kind. And that's why he was mistreated. This was 1958. What changed between 58 and now? Black American influence on Africans. But we're still different. They just cosplay Black Americans now.
So I saw that on August 1st, there's going to be a boycott of African restaurants, salons, and hair places. And at first I was like, oh, why are we not supporting our, But then I realized, like, growing up as an African father and an American mom and, like, being in between cultures, I completely understand. Like, I really completely understand, because it was so hard growing up with, like, you would think it's all like kumbaya between both my families. No, you thought wrong. My dad's side, like my aunts and especially my grandmother, she treated me so bad, and I, to this day, like, I don't know why, but they're racist. Like, Africans are racist, and I don't think a lot of African Americans don't know that Africans are racist, but they have the same mindset as the white man. I'm not gonna lie to you, they really do. Like, they all think that we're rambunctious and like we're ghetto and all this stuff, but a lot of Africans, which is crazy to me learning this, don't know about the African slave trade. Like, when I graduated high school, that was my first time my aunt saw the movie Roots. My cousin showed my aunt the movie Roots, and she didn't know about slavery. Like, she was like, oh, I understand why African Americans are like this now. So I understand boycotting the African community or African businesses, but it's like, I feel like they will finally understand. Like, they will finally understand if you boycott it. So I'm for it. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm for it. But it's like, it's kind of like, that's kind of like my, my brothers and sisters, but y'all are racist. To be real with you, especially like the older generation, y'all are racist, and y'all need to stop with this mindset. And they only hang around white people. They only hang around their own people. They don't hang around. You ever see an African really hanging around African Americans? I mean, my aunts and uncles don't. So, but when this happens, they will really get a taste of their own medicine. So, should have been nicer. Sorry, should have did your research.
Y'all ever wonder why Africans don't really like us? Well, I was married to an African. I remember we was having a conversation, and I said to him, it just really seemed like y'all don't really like us. I was showing him a video. I said, this is what they show us of y'all, that y'all hungry, your ribs is hanging out. So I showed him the video of one of those commercials they would show us like 3 a.m. Could you spare $1? He said, that is not us. He looked at that video, he laughed, and he said, who is that? He said, that is not us. He said, that's not them in Africa. That was never them starving. I said, what? So then I said, well, what is they showing y'all of us? He said the movies that they see of us is that we are, our men sell drugs, which they do, but they sell drugs and they just murder anything walking. They murder everybody. And so I said, well, what they show y'all about us? He said, they show them that we're prostitutes and we get high. And I was like, what? And so then he said when he went to get his papers from immigration or whoever he get the papers from to come here, he said they told him, don't marry a black woman. You'd be better off marrying a white woman. So when we're looking at this separateness that we have amongst each other, it was inbred in us. It was inbred to them to fear us. So they fear us and don't like us. We got to wake up, y'all, and come back together and unite in unity. There was things that was done and said to keep us apart. Ashe.
Y'all must really think us black folks don't know what goes on in y'all country. Y'all really think we don't know why y'all ran from your country. And you ran here by these dangerous black people. Well, if we so goddamn bad, go your ass home.
Ain't nobody really at war, but some of y'all starting to look real guilty, because the moment foundational black Americans said, we focusing on us now, whole world just start losing their damn mind. Why? Because we finally drew a line and refused to apologize for it. We're not attacking anybody. We're not threatening businesses. We're not rioting. We're not even raising our voices. We simply said, we're foundational black Americans. We're a distinct lineage. And that's it. We're claiming what's ours. For that, we're being called violent, divisive, xenophobic, white nationalists, white ringers, all of it. And that's projection, that's fear, and that's Fed talk. Nobody in this movement is caping for Republicans, and we all just need to go be Republican and vote Republican and do what they do. We flame Democrats and Republicans heavy. We don't want white acceptance. We want reparative justice, tangibles. Now suddenly, the African Union shows up trying to crowbar us into some kind of sixth region of the diaspora. And a lot of people are saying that looks like a cold finesse to try to finesse us out of our reparations claim. And we reject that because this ain't no group project. Our fight is not for sale, and our justice is not international aid. And yeah, you're going to see some weirdo, bootlicking FBA clowns pushing some of this diaspora wars bullshit too. You'll see that. TikTok and all of these social media platforms, they full of provocateurs looking for attention, going around saying F Africans all over the place trying to go viral. They don't represent us. They're just minions of white supremacy projecting their confusion onto a focused movement. Some black Americans said they're gonna hold their dollar, and suddenly the immigrant businesses start panicking. See, but the truth of the matter is those businesses were built off the benefits meant for us. These people didn't come here to help black Americans. They came here to eat off the policies, the struggle, and the blood we spilled. So don't cry now that some of them dollars is being kept in-house, because y'all would never feeding us no way. We are not obligated or required to financially support anybody that disrespects us. We don't owe you nothing. And no, there is no war. We not fighting nobody but the system of white supremacy and its minions. So if you find yourself on that side of the fence, yeah, you getting all the smoke. And we just done letting people eat off us and speak for us and shame us for finally standing up for ourselves. So like I said, we not at war. We just not your fools no more. And if that burns you up, maybe it's because deep down, you already knew that free ride is over.